The Met Police have been accused of lying about the Gaza protests at the BBC. We're going to read into this more from Byline Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Byline Times with the headline that the Met Police have been accused of lying about the Gaza protests at the BBC. The Green Party's deputy leader, Zack, Polanski, challenges the Home Secretary as the row deepens over police handling of the Palestine Solidarity March. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. The BBC being accused of lying. Where have we heard that before? The reality is the BBC have been lying. They've lied a lot about a lot of things. They need to be called out when they have been not been giving fair and factual information, because the BBC is one of the most beloved state media broadcasts out there in the UK. It is the most popular thing. It is something that we as Britain value deeply. We value the British Broadcasting Corporation. We really do. I know there may be some people on the comments here and there, here online, who don't give a damn about the BBC. But the BBC is very much a well-cherished thing that we have here in the UK, and something that that people want to undermine in some way, shape or form. But they have not been very good when it comes to around the Gaza protests. And this is not the first time that they have been unfair and tried to portray a different imagery as well. We also know that GB News has misled the public when it comes to the Gaza protests as well, trying to claim that it's Palestinian, but that in past protests they tried to claim it was the protesters of Gaza, when in fact it was actually people from the English Defence League or members of those kind of protests on the same day, and they tried to smear Gaza protesters with using certain imagery and words, that their language that they use to misinterpret and mislead the audience members of them. And that was GB News. Now the BBC have at times, when it comes to certain news, when they cover certain things, they do hit the nail on the head, but there are times when they get things wrong. Now, are they perfect? Of course not. But they're certainly far more reliable than GB News. That's when I would say for sure. But the Met Police have been extremely harsh last weekend when it came to the Gaza protesters. Obviously, because it was very significant. Not because it was a Jewish holiday as well, but also because of around the ceasefire being agreed upon as well, coming into effect as well. So there was a huge amount of tension last weekend, understandably so. So let me read into this for you guys. So ALondon Assembly member has written to the Home Secretary amid claims that the Met Police lied about the Gaza protests over the weekend. So on Saturday, thousands of protesters in central London gathered to demand a lasting ceasefire and an end to what they call a genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. The march had been hit with strict conditions by police over where they could go and for how long under the Public Order Act. Okay. Now, it came amid pressure from the Board of Deputies of the British Jews that the planned destination, BBC headquarters, was close to a synagogue and its attendees on the Sabbath. The implementation was that Jews would be targeted by pro-Gaza protesters. Now, I want to stress this here. If you can provide me with stories that have claimed that pro-Gaza protesters, not pro-Hamas protesters, pro-Gazan protesters, those who have been part of those protesters, have attacked Jews Jews on those marches, please provide me with them, because I have struggled to find some. The pretty much 95% of people who have taken part in these have always been peaceful. So, but they've tried. I know that the right-wing media have tried very hard to smear these protesters. They've tried very hard to smear them, and it's very difficult to do so. Now, I don't have a problem with them going near the BBC headquarters to protest their rights, but because it's close to a synagogue, there's a bit touchy there. Now, I don't know why. Now, I say I don't know why. It's not the right word. I understand that British Jews are concerned because obviously about how they feel about Israel, and they want to support Israel, and because of what happened on October the 7th, which we all agree, what happened on October the 7th in the Middle East was absolutely disgusting and barbaric by Hamas, and they should pay for that, and we all agree with that. However, like, the rights to protest have been taken away here. Let's be very clear. People's rights to protest and free speech are being taken away here, and I think that's very, very clear on this story. But protesters claim the Met Police allowed them to march towards the BBC. Now, we talked about this before. They have said they had evidence to prove that as well, and then began arresting people en masse. That includes the chief steward for the protest, Chris Nineham of Stop the War Coalition, and Palestine Solidarity Campaign director Ben Jamal. MPs John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn, who spoke at the demonstrations, have also been interviewed under police caution. At the event, the police made 77 arrests, the vast majority for breach of conditions, in other words, marching outside the Met Police permitted route. Following the arrest, the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper wrote on X that everyone should be able to worship in peace. The Met Police have my support in ensuring that synagogues were not disrupted today. She shared a Community Security Trust post saying, "Thank you to the Met Police for ensuring the community could attend the Shabbat services peaceful today. A special thanks to all our volunteers who played a vital role in today's security operation." This is absolutely false. They were not going to disrupt the synagogue. This is a lie. That was not their intention. Their intention was targeting the BBC headquarters, and they had permission from the Met Police. Because we discussed this before. If not on here, I've discussed it on Patreon. The Green Party's London Assembly member Zack, who spoke at the demonstration and is Jewish, remember that, has now written to the Home Secretary to express frustrations over hers and her police public statement. He told Byline Times that he believes the police have lied by claiming marches have actively broken through police lines. Polanski and the organisation said they were allowed through by officers. In his letter to the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper on Monday, Polanski writes, "It is concerning to see Metropolitan Police tweet falsely stating that people were forcing through police lines. Such language feeds false and often racist narratives about the Palestine Solidarity Campaign protests that have been peaceful." He added, "I'm also disturbed by your own communication suggesting that this was an intention to disrupt a synagogue. Many Jewish participants, including myself, find this accusation offensive. The goal was to protest the BBC's failure to report a genocide accurately. And this was planned quite some distance from the synagogue and way after the service has ended." Yeah, and this was not going to be at the time the synagogue was going to have its service as well. People forget that. Public trust in our institutions is already fragile. Politicising the police and smearing innocent people only worsens this. I urge you to review the evidence, including footage from body-worn cameras from the event, retract your comments and clarify the situation with Metropolitan Police. So basically, Yvette Cooper lied. That's simple. It's as simple as that. And here she is basically saying that the synagogues were never going to be disrupted. They weren't going to be targeted. It was supposed to be. It was at a different time as well. On the 20th of January, Commander Polanski, who led the police in operation on Saturday, claimed we saw a deliberate effort, including by protest organisers, to breach conditions and attempts to march out in Whitehall. This was a serious escalation in criminality, and one which we're taken incredibly seriously. Officers have worked around the clock to pursue those involved. That's not true. We will continue to work through CCTV footage, videos, and from social media and our body-worn cameras so we can make further arrests and bring forward charges that we can identify criminality. What's likely to happen, because the evidence contradicts what they are saying here, is that they will try to shove this all under the carpet and move along, just like what happened with the anti-monarchy protest when it came to the king being crowned. When we had the big parade and all that kind of stuff, the anti-monarchy protesters who were told that they were allowed to protest were snuffed out, and basically when they arrived on the day, the police basically lied to them and basically shoved them away, pushing them, basically arresting them and not giving them a chance to have their voices heard. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. You're not going to hear anything about this. It's going to be quietly kept under the rug, and life is just going to carry on as if nothing happens. This is what they're going to do. They also say, "I'd like to thank officers for their professional response, including those from other forces across the country who assisted. Thankfully, no officers were injured during the protest. However, 3 were spat at and 1 was physically assaulted. We are receiving appropriate support." On the same day, the Met Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, addressed the board of deputies, where he was applauded by Jewish representatives for the false handling of the Gaza march. The Palestine Solidarity Campaign said there's been no recorded cases of Gaza protesters targeting synagogues on its marches. Polanski's fellow Green Party member Assembly Zoe Garbiet said Saturday's policing was disgraceful. She said in a statement, "I'm outraged at the way the Met handled this weekend's protest. Policing is about choices, and it was the Met's choice to arrest peaceful protesters at such unnecessary high rates. Met cannot have it both ways, repeatedly changing where and how protests are occur, arresting people for breaching overly complex protest restrictions, and posting misleading public statements after the fact, not in the way to facilitate protests. The Met complains when protest groups don't engage with them, yet when groups like Palestine Solidarity Campaign do work with them in good faith, it seems the Met can't do the same. And this is why you cannot trust the police. I've talked about why the police are been trusted and undermining, and this is exactly why. She said she plans to confront the Met Police Commissioner directly over the weekend events the next time she sits before the Assembly. Londoners deserve to know exactly who their police officers are protecting and serving, she added. And this is the letter that Zack Polanski had written there. I'm just going to scroll down. I'm not going to read it for you guys, but if you want to have a read, you can do there. Just pause the video and have a look there. Pretty much, yeah, what he's already basically said there on the matter there. So for despite the fact that Yvette Cooper is someone I actually think has been a very good Home Secretary here, we've seen her true colours come here. We've seen her that she's willing to lie in order to mislead the British public into thinking that these Palestinian protesters were going to, that the Gaza protesters were going to be some kind of threat to the synagogue or Israeli people, which is absolutely a false narrative. And it's been a false narrative for a long time. And this needs to be called out for what it is, of an absolute 100% lie. If you don't want to take my word for it, and if you want to stand by what the synagogue has said, feel free to do your research on your own. It's not that hard to do it yourself. There's plenty of fact checkers out there, and there's plenty of video footage you can find from people who had their phones recorded at the times of them as well. The Met Police have lied before, and they have lied here. The Home Secretary has lied about this, and this was about targeting the BBC and the way they've been covering the Gaza. This is not about the synagogue. This is not about the Jewish people at all, but they are trying to make it like that so that, guess what? So they can divide us as people. That's what they want us to do. And Labour should hang their heads in shame for this on this matter. And well done to the Green Party members for standing up and calling this out for what it is as well. One of the very few political parties that actually have some common sense in the UK, in England in particular. So, guys, what do you make of this story? What do you guys make? The BBC were lying. Are you surprised that the BBC are lying? The Home Secretary was lying. Are you surprised by this? Let me know your thoughts on this story and more down in the comments section below. If you found this video informative or helpful to you, please hit that like button. It's greatly appreciated. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.